Welcome to Fast and Hard with your host, Coach Matt Tyner and Will Pritchard.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming back and listening to episode 6. My goodness, how time flies. This seems like the other day, Will, we were sitting down worrying about who was going to talk on episode 1.
That's right. We did worry about that for a little while.
So here we are with episode 6. Well, let me tell you who we got on the show today. First and foremost, we got Jim Sherman. He is the University of Delaware head baseball coach. This is Jim's swan song. He will be retiring after this year. So pleasured and honored to have him as a guest today, talking a little bit about his career and what lies ahead for him in retirement. After that, we got Rucker Taylor. Rucker Taylor is one of the top coaches under 40 years old, top 10 coaches listed by D1 Baseball. So interesting to get his perspective on college baseball. He is the head baseball coach at Davidson College down in North Carolina. Outstanding young man. One I would have no problem going to work for. He's just that kind of guy. Next, we cross over. We leave baseball and head to football. For the first time on our show, we are going to welcome Charlie Fisher, the former head coach at Western Illinois, former assistant at Richmond, where I met him. Charlie is just a heck of a guy. And after 39 years of coaching college football, he has decided to step away and now open an internet ministry where he basically is in charge of sending out great tidbits of inspirational and motivational messages on a daily basis. Aptly named Fish Food. If you listen to his interview, he will give you his website or email address, and you can subscribe to Fish Food as well. Today, we've got Michael Melnik back, and let me tell you, this was the best interview that we have had regarding the energy sources. Consistency is something that we all search for in our relationships, in our programs, in our professional lives, and just life in general. And what a great topic to dive deep into and listen to some of the ways that we can improve our consistency on a balanced approach. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and remember, you can always hit that fast forward if you want to, but I'd suggest listening to today's show.
So, the home opener this past week, a win over UMBC?
Yeah, it was. It was a great way to start our homestand as well as our home season. Always a tough opponent. UMBC and Towson, obviously, very close, talent-wise, program-wise. We'd like to think we're trying to separate from them a little bit, but, they played us tough. Ball bounced our way a couple times, and the next thing you know, we come away with a 5-1 victory. And I can't say enough for the way our guys bounced back from a really, really trying weekend against Greensboro to come back and pocket that W. So very well done.
So what went well overall this weekend beyond just, that, big turnaround?
You start with a win in a midweek scenario, and that gives you a chance to build on that and to record some W's, hopefully. I think it goes without saying that if our guys have a choice of sleeping in their own beds, playing baseball here at home in the confines of John B., or on the road and getting home at 5 a.m., or taking 7-hour to 8-hour bus rides, eating in a restaurant all the time, or getting your meals delivered to you and eating in your bedroom or in your hotel room, I think they would pick this. So, there's a little bit of comfort and an opportunity to recharge and get the ball rolling in the right direction. And I think we're close. I mean, I could be highly critical when it comes to the game of baseball. And I don't want to do that because I want to remember that we're dealing with 18 to 23-year-old baseball players, and mistakes even happen in the big leagues, Will. So we're not perfect. It's not a perfect game. it's usually the team loses the game to the eventual winner. Very seldom does it ever happen where the team wins the game. Against UMBC, we won that game. We took it away from them. We didn't give them a chance to get into it. We picked a runner off of first base. We made some great quality pitches. We made some great defensive plays. We had timely hits. We were aggressive on the base paths. You play that kind of baseball against like-kind competition, chances are you're going to play well. And you're going to, the outcome's going to be good.
So beyond UMBC, FDU. So you've had win over them on Friday, and then in the first game, second game, 12-5 loss. What went well that first game, and what happened with that second game?
Well, it's a tale of two cities, actually. But in the first game, if you can remember, we were down late in the game, and then for the first time that I've been a Towson head coach, I got to witness back-to-back home runs, which was just incredible, to see. And you talk about a momentum swing. Oh my gosh, because we had taken an early 3-0 lead, then 3-1, and then promptly gave up 4 runs on some pretty sloppy play. Can't take anything away from FDU because they swing it. They're going to be built off of their hitting, and they got 25 hits in 2 games. But of those 25 hits, how many were extra chances? How many innings did we give FDU 4 outs or 5 outs? And when you do that to a team, again, of equal caliber, then you're asking for bad things to happen. And consequently, a 4 spot gets thrown up. So to come back with a 3-run inning like that, unbelievable. But then we went right back out and we gave them 4 outs in the next inning, and they scored a run to tie the game. Without Jacob Terrell hitting that 2-out triple in the bottom half of the 8th, and then JP, Jordan Payton coming up with a 2-out single to score Terrell, we could still be playing. And if you think back, that triple was quasi wind blown, probably should have been caught, but wasn't. So maybe the baseball gods rewarded us for our hard play, even though we weren't playing 100% clean. We had 4 errors in that game. And if there's one thing I tell our team, don't expect to win with 3, forget about it with 4, but we still won that one. So, we won that game ugly. Second game, we jumped right out to a 5-1 lead, and then the ugliness kind of continued, where we decided we were going to give them additional outs in every inning. And that's the one aspect I feel that we need to just tighten up on a bit. We're not wholesale changes. We just need to protect the baseball a little bit more and make sure we're only giving 3 outs per inning instead of 4 or 5. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but our pitchers are doing a phenomenal job of pitching to contact. Their walks per 9 are coming down considerably. Our hit by pitch is there for a minute. I thought we were leading the country. Now that's come down as well. So they're moving in the right direction. We actually have a hitter hitting over 300 for the first time in, a year or 2. And he is really doing extremely well. We've got a couple people that are starting to get untracked, or at least show some signs of consistency there. We've got a young man that has yet to strike out. First time ever. We're rapidly approaching 50 at-bats for a guy, Jordan Payton, and he is one of 2 guys as of last week that had not struck out this year. So he gets it, so they say hitting is contagious, and I think you saw that in that back-to-back-to-back scenario. I think we just need to become a little bit more aware of what kind of offense we are capable of, but more so what kind of offense we actually have. I know I was talking with a baseball enthusiast the other day, and he said, what do you think about your four-hitter? And I just said, I'm not sure we have I'm going to use this, I'm going to borrow it from the medicinal field, a clinical four type hitter. We've got about 8, 9 guys that I look at it from this perspective. Who would I want out with 2 outs and runners on second, third, and know that I have to score 1? Well, I would want this guy first, this guy second, this guy third, this guy fourth, this guy fifth, and on down the line. And that's how our lineup is built, because there are so many qualities that each one of our hitters have that are alike. And none of them are going to hit 20 home runs. So if you're looking for that power guy in the 4-hole, you've come to the wrong team. We're more of a singles, doubles, occasional pop type offense. And that's what I have to remind our guys. Hey, stay within yourself. It doesn't matter if you're hitting 4th, 8th, 2nd, 6th, 1st, 9th, 5th, 7th. Doesn't matter. Your job is to hit the baseball. So do what you can control. You don't have to go up there thinking, I got to go yard. And I just have to reemphasize that to our guys every now and then to make sure they understand where I see them.
So you're going to carry that momentum on through Princeton this weekend, and then going on even, at Virginia and Richmond next week as well, correct?
Yes, that is correct. We're talking about a Princeton team that I thought for a moment was, I looked at their schedule and I said, I thought our schedule was difficult to start. Gosh, their schedule, they got to be up there for strength of schedule as well. They opened with Purdue University, and it hasn't gotten any easier for them as they've continued down this path already. They have played, they started with Purdue, and unfortunately they went 0-4 there. Then they ran into VCU, lost a close one. They've lost 3 games out of their first 5 by 1 run. They did play William and Mary, which is one that I could, kind of relate to. I watched William and Mary play this weekend online, and I think they look a lot like us. Richmond, they got beat 9-8, another 1-run game. Then they went down and they played Mississippi State. So they played Purdue, VCU, Richmond, Mississippi State, and they've lost everything. So I don't know about you, but I think baseball is a game of momentum. We got to keep them down somehow, So the best way to do that is to jump on them early and hopefully get to them to where they're thinking, oh God, here we go again. And if we can do that and stay on them, not take our foot off the gas pedal this weekend, I think we got a chance to do a little bit of damage. But don't discount this team at all. They're good. They're playing these teams extremely tough. They're playing tough competition, and I'm sure they're looking forward to getting back up north and playing some like-kind competition as well. So, yes, that will be a good one. And then we travel to UVA and we travel to Richmond. UVA, always tough. They've jumped into the top 25. Not sure how we're going to pitch them. We think we may use Blumenauer on Richmond that weekend and maybe throw him a little bit in relief this upcoming week rather than starting him so that he gets that game against Virginia. And then we have a young man, Ethan Pecko, who is making a comeback, and he may pitch a little bit this weekend and then get the start on Wednesday. Coming back from an injury, he opened for us on against UMBC on Tuesday last week, and that was really good to see. Anytime somebody jumps back up on the mound, it is just a wonderful thing to see that the surgery is successful. I mean, we got a young man named Shane Clower who unfortunately hurt his arm in between seasons, and has not thrown a pitch competitively for us yet. And he's gone through his last surgery a couple weeks ago, and it's our hope that next year he takes the mound for us, and he too gets a chance to make a comeback like that. So pretty cool stuff, you know. And then we wrap up our homestand with UMass, or our non-conference homestand with UMass, the end of spring break. So yeah, I think we're poised. I think we're ready to, you know, put some wins together. I know it's been great to see the fan base. Some of the staff members have come down and watched the boys play. It's been exciting baseball, I'll tell you that. The ball's been leaving the park, and there's been some great defensive plays, big strikeouts. So college baseball is alive and well here at John B. Sherholtz Park.
Well, we've got more home games coming up to look forward to.
Absolutely, sports fans. I hope you guys take a minute out of your busy schedule. I know I do want to give a shout out to the Towson League 10U team that's coming out on March the 20th to share the national anthem with our players. If you've got a little league team that you'd like to have run out and take the field with our guys and be a part of our national anthem program, just reach out to me via email, mtyner@towson.edu, and see if we can't put you on the schedule. Dates are filling up, so we'd love to have, try to keep it 12 years and younger, because I think it's a special thrill for those guys. And there is a commemorative token that we give each and every player for coming out and participating with us. And all we ask is that you maybe chase down a couple foul balls, bring them back, and we'll give you the token. So hope to see you at John B. Will, thanks for the question. It's been a good couple days to get back home. Unfortunately, this weekend we got snowed out and colded out. So I think it was good. We've been on the road for 3 weeks. Got, sandwich in there that 5 a.m. return day, and it zaps people. So we're happy to have had a little bit of a break. We're going to come out tomorrow, re-energized, recharged, ready to go for the remainder of the season.
Sounds great.
Thanks, guys. We'll be back next week with a recap of our Princeton series. So until then, stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to welcome back Michael Melnik. After a week off, we have brought him back, and we're going to take another deep dive into the energy sources. And this week, the topic will be consistency. And I don't know if you guys struggle with consistency like I do, but that's why we've got him, so that he can kind of lead us down that path and see if we can't bring us back to a little bit better consistent behavior, which in the long run should produce some interesting results. Michael, welcome back.
Thank you, Matthew. It's good to be here.
Awesome, man. You had a little bit of time off with your family last week. Is that correct?
We had some time off. We were out in California, and it's always interesting to introduce the energy source consistency with going after a week off. So, we can lose our momentum a little bit when we change consistency. So I think the timing for consistency is good.
Absolutely. I don't know. I'm gonna throw this first question your way. In your travels professionally, out of the energy sources that we've covered and the ones that we're going to cover, do you feel as if professional environments struggle with this the most, or is this just one of the ones that need attention?
Well, I mean, the answer is yes and yes. This one is big. And I would say in sports world, it probably is as well, because the idea is that at any moment in time in a company that I may be working with, they are dealing with customer service, productivity, quality control. And at any moment, depending on where the last phone call came from, that's where they're going to put their attention. It's kind of the squeaky wheel. So from a consistency standpoint, they could have just finished saying, okay, this is really important and this is what we want to focus on. And then the phone rings, just like it does in our lives. And all of a sudden, there goes that plan and it's out the window. So one of the things, and to your question, is really the idea of going, consistency is easiest when we have a plan in place that says, this is what I would be able to do when things get crazy. I would still be able to maintain this level of consistency versus everything goes out the window and we would have to come back and start again from square one.
You know, it's interesting that if you try to tether that to athletics, you're talking about, for example, a baseball team in the field of play and an error happening. And then what happens next, you know, or if you're the offensive side of a baseball game and you're hitting and there's base runners in front of you and somebody forgets where to go, you know, so now what does that hitter do as he's running the bases? You know, I've seen hitters pass runners. I've seen defenders make one error and then the ball finds them again and it makes another error. And, you know, we strive to just play consistent baseball, which is field it or catch it, field it, throw it, hit it, all of the menial things that when the proverbial does happen, and it does happen, then do you spiral out of control or do you minimize? And how can you tie that into consistency on the professional level?
Right. Right. Well, you know, for as example, just from a timing standpoint, I'm watching the Players Championship, the golf, and the best player may not be the one that wins. The most consistent player will be the one that wins because the best player may get a hole on one hole and then get a 6 on the next one. Whereas the other guys may be getting a 4 and a bogey and another bogey, and still as a total is better just from a consistency standpoint. So I like to use the term balance from the standpoint of that's really what we're all looking for. You know, in baseball, like you said, if you can be consistent, how many times has a coach been saying to his players, you know, whatever you did yesterday and whatever you did the day before, can we do that again? And what they're looking for is not necessarily something amazing. They are looking for that level of consistency because they may do a little better, they may do a little bit of worse, but boy, if you can keep that midline and not have an extreme, that's where we all tend to do well. And I think from a communication standpoint, that this balance, the things that we say, and this is where consistency really matters with the clients that I work with, and I think it matters from a coaching standpoint as well, is that we will do things like saying, all right, everybody gather around. I want to tell you something that's really important. And we will use those exact words. This is really important. Now, if I'm a listener to that, I'm going, okay, whatever this is has an exclamation point with it. This has been bolded. This has been underlined. And so once this statement's been made, I'm going to be looking for the behaviors that support that statement because it was preceded with, this is important. Now, what happens is if we say this is really important, then we come to practice the next day, or it's in a game situation, or for me, it's in a workplace, and the employees are standing around, or the players are standing around going, well, yesterday they said this was important. They haven't even mentioned it again. Or I did the opposite of what they mentioned yesterday, and nobody's even calling me out on it. Right after they said it was important, I'm now confused. What happens the next time you tell me something's important and I don't see those behaviors? So it does undermine our goals and our efforts when we are inconsistent.
And maybe you can shed some light on this, because I know that even in my program, we're certainly not perfect. Is there a time and place when companies you've dealt with have like nodded their head to your presentation and gone, wow, we are totally inconsistent with consistency?
Yes.
And when do we draw the line and hit the refresh or the recharge or go, okay, you know, silly me, it's all on me. I'm going to own this. But as of tomorrow or this evening, we've got to win some small battles. We you know, and maybe I'll take away the exclamation point, but this really is important, you know, that we start averaging, balancing, you know, winning these small battles. Do companies actually do that?
Well, they do it with some coaching. They don't necessarily do it on their own. And all of us benefit from somebody on the outside that's watching. So it may be somebody like me going, I just want you to know what I just heard you say to everybody. and I want you to know what kind of expectation that probably created. Are you ready to live up to that expectation? And if not, you might want to change your messaging, because, for example, walk into any workplace, and I realize this isn't necessarily the sports analogy, but if you walk into any workplace, you'll see signs that say safety is number one. And I'll say to them, let's walk around this workplace and let's go find all the examples of where that's happening. Because if we can find all the examples of where it's happening, guess what we can do? We can take the sign down, because they will see what safety's number one looks like. They don't need the sign. And the reason sometimes they put the sign up is because you can't find it anyplace else other than on the sign. So, and again, it really boils down to, I don't want to make the energized approach sound any more complicated than it is, because back in the very beginning, I talked about what does the energy source look like in action? What does commitment look like? What does communication look like? What does consistency look like? So what I will ask organizations to do is say, if you're going to stand up in front of people and you're going to say, this is really important, take just a few seconds and say to the audience, tell me what kind of an expectation that is created in your brain of what you now expect to see, because we just told you it's important. I'm going to tell you what I'm expecting from you because it's important. You tell me what you're expecting from me. And they'll say things like, well, hopefully you're still talking about this a week from now. Hopefully, if somebody does it differently than what you just said is important, we're going to hear about that it's going to get called out. Otherwise, it's kind of like sticking air in the balloon. And every time a situation comes up that's inconsistent with the message, it lets the air out. And now your next important message has lost its legs.
Outrageous. And unfortunately, as we always do, when you and I converse like this, and maybe other people that are listening to us right now are sitting there going, oh my gosh, I've got some work to do. And as we sit here as a team, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, what's the missing ingredient that is holding us back right now. And the sky's not falling. We're not that far off where I think we should be, but we're not where I think we should be. Right. And as I'm listening to this and nodding my head, I'm sitting there going, well, this is why, because what used to be important is not as important, because now we're into the game aspect of it, where this all matters. And, I don't really care what you wear to the lift, but in reality, I really do. Because if it's not important to you, then we've broken our unity. And when we break our unity, then we broken our trust. And when we've broken our trust, does that show up on the field? And, and I'm sitting here going, so I apologize for not being a real good conversationalist today, because I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, man, I can't think of the TV show, but the guy goes, damn it, Bobby, you're going to make me want to work, so now I'm going to say, damn it, Michael, you're going to make me work my ass off again. So doggone it. Here we go again.
But once again, I want to make this as simple as it can be, because when I go into a company, one of the examples I'll use is to say, as you're going and looking at pieces of equipment, if you're not maintaining it, if you're not putting the oil in, if you're not changing the bearings, if you're not doing whatever, which means you're not consistently taking care of the equipment, what happens? They go, well, it's going to break down, alarms are going to go off, the quality is going to be bad. There's all these signs that we get. The problem that we have with other human beings is there aren't lights that go off, right? There's not bells and whistles. We're not going to see a difference that way. It's not going to be as objective. So what we have to do is try to get the people that we are trying to be consistent with to be giving us and feel that it's okay to give us the signals of, well, but wait a second, coach, you said the other day this, or you know what, I can't tell. Sit down with a bunch of players and just go, right now, this moment in time, what do you all think is important to me? Well, yesterday you said this, and today you said this, because if we don't get that mirror held up in front of us, we don't necessarily know that we are being received inconsistently, because in our own brains, we've got a totally different definition that says, I'm nailing it. And we need to talk to our audience and find out if that's actually the case.
Well, and God knows I do that mirror thing quite a bit, and I would suggest that most people do that as well. You know, I feel like I have hung my ego on my door a long time ago. Certainly, it came from having the opportunity to work with you, but you know, you're right, and sometimes we forget, and I'm sure companies feel the same way. And you know, just being subtly reminded by it via this conversation has given me, you know, new food for thought, new energy for, okay, this is what I was missing this week. See, if I'd have called you on Saturday, we wouldn't have had anything to talk about today. But,
That's beautiful. Well, let me share one more thing here and why this is so important.
okay.
Because particularly in sports, there are wins and there are losses. Coaches will say to their players, I really care about you guys. I care about you as people. I care about your future. I care about what happens with you. Does that change, or is that different after a loss than it is? I mean, in other words, there are some things that should never waver from a consistency standpoint. I can be mad at you. I can be angry. I can be pissed. I can feel let down and whatever, but I do not care about you less as a human being. And what does that look like from a consistency standpoint? Because that's where sometimes players get confused, is the idea of going, gosh, I think they're probably going to cut me now, or they're, you know, they don't care about what happens to me because I didn't have a great game. You can still be mad at me. I can still feel bad about my performance, but I still feel appreciated as a human being, because that consistency has never changed. And that's what we try to do with our kids, is we can yell at them, but we never want them to doubt our love, our affection, or whatever it might be. And that consistency is solid.
Well, I'm here to tell you that I used to wear a lot more feelings on my sleeve than I do now. I think I am starting to mature a little bit at 63. And I think the token, or the phrase that I use is, regardless of what happens, I don't unlove you. I'm still going to love you like a son. And, you know, we're going to get through this together. And if we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. But the objective is, if and when we win together. And if and when we lose together. And there's some consistency in that, you know, and if we can keep that message going, then I think you can expand and dig deeper into it and really start to hone in. And our producer, Will, was fine enough to correct me, or to give us it was King of the Hill was the name of the show. where the guy says, damn it, Bobby. He always comes up with some good, you know, zingers right there when I need it. But it was a little late on the draw. But Michael, I'll tell you, consistency was what I needed to hear today and talk about and just verbalize, because I love the analogy you gave that, you know, if you don't take care of the engine, it just starts to fail. And my goodness, I don't think we've been putting any oil in our cylinders right now. So we will break free of that bondage and see if we can't move forward. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think just like with all the energy sources, it's not really a destination as much as it is a journey. All of us can just take a look and go, can I be more consistent? Can I be a better communicator? Can I be more committed? Because what's beautiful about this is that the people that we come in contact with and touch every day, they're not measuring our destination. They're noticing the difference in how we did it before and how we did it now, or how we do it now. That's what energizes them. Not, you're not there yet. It's, this is better. I like the energy around this better. And then we can constantly be adding and improving on that.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll wrap today and this week's performance of the Energized Approach with Michael Melnik. Thanks very much for listening, and we can't wait to have you back next week. We'll cover accountability.
Yeah, it's accountability. So I will be there.
That's great. I don't know how many of our listeners will come back, because, you know, if they're going to be shy about anything, accountability is probably numero uno.
No expectations. Just come on back.
That's right. Remember, folks, it's a journey. It's a journey. We're in this together. Thank you very much, Michael. Look forward to talking with you next week. Have a great week.
Thanks,
See you
buddy.
later.
Talk to you soon. Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye. We'll be back with you in just a second. But right now, a little word from our sponsor. Hey, Will, we picked up another sponsor tonight.
All right, who is it?
Advanced Collision in Beltsville, Maryland. Serving cars, buses, fleets, RV, recreational vehicles, and emergency vehicles. They upfit in the Washington, D.C. and the Baltimore areas. Advanced Collision LLC excels at providing paint, dent repair, and auto body work services for your automobile. They use the best products available today for your automobile, and they only use certified, skilled, highly trained technicians backed by state-of-the-art equipment on your repair. And for a couple months, the Jungle Cat and his family kept those techs in business. They offer custom paint and design, professional body work, and repair services for all types of cars, trucks, buses, and recreational vehicles. So if you have a vehicle that needs repaired, do what the Jungle Cat does. Call 301-595-9377 to schedule an appointment. Advanced Collision, your best bet when it comes to automotive repair. My next guest is one of my best friends in college baseball, and it stems from having played against him way back in the day and now having had the opportunity to coach against him for the last 4 years. Head coach at the University of Delaware, Jim Sherman. Welcome to our show, Jim. How are you?
Good, Matt. Appreciate it, and love these type of formats anyway. So I'm ready to roll.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I can't tell you how much it means to have you on the show. For those of you that don't know, Jim not only coached, God knows, what are you going into this year? This is your
This is my 28th year at Delaware. 22 years head coach. I was here for 6 years as an assistant.
And you played there for 4 years as well, right?
Say it again?
You played there for 4 years as well.
And then I played 4 years. Before I came back to Delaware, I was at a Division II school, Wilmington University. I was the athletic director and baseball coach there for 7 years. And then I came back to Delaware as an assistant coach for 6 years. And then I took over for the last 22 years.
Absolutely. So going way back, University of Delaware baseball player, Jim Sherman, what an offensive career you put together. I went back and looked at some of your numbers, and they were staggering, man. You're the career leader in home runs at the University of Delaware still to this day, correct?
No, actually, I'm not.
Oh, man. Somebody
yeah.
beat you?
Yeah, because it probably was in my bio, and then and it's just been left in here, maybe. I don't know. Kevin Minch, who played in the big leagues for the Texas Rangers and a few other clubs in the late 90s, broke my record. Actually, Kevin had 1 year, Matty, he hit 33 home runs in one season. Guys don't hit 33 in a career. He ended up with like, I should know exactly, but I don't. But you know, he's somewhere. I would say in the 60 home run mark.
Oh my gosh, that's quite a career for anybody.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned,
I think I'm third now on the all time list.
Well, that's still pretty good, big guy. And I know from my own personal experience of having dotted the Miami record books for about 1, 2, maybe 3 years, and with each year me sliding down the list until I'm not even on the list anymore. You know, so it's humbling to say the least. And but you know you were there, and what an unbelievable career. So you went to the University of Delaware. You're from Delaware. You go from a player at UD. You go to a couple regionals. Had you beat us, you would have gone to the College World Series. That didn't happen. But you got drafted by the Houston Astros, and you played professional baseball for what, 5 years?
Yeah, I played up through 5 years. Up through AAA as I started my AAA career. I got hurt, broke a thumb, had a bad knee, surgery during the off season, so I had a knee injury. Had that coming around, but then I hurt my thumb. Make a long story short, it was one of those deals I just couldn't get healthy again. And they approached me and asked me would I want to go into some coaching with the organization. And I said, let me think about it. Let me just go home. And I came back here to Delaware because I was living out in Arizona. And I just happened to bump into the athletic director at Wilmington University at the time. And he said, hey, we lost our baseball coach. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah. So I took the job. But so I spent five total years in minor league ball.
Absolutely. So you transitioned out of playing into coaching. What was that like for you? I remember my first days as a baseball coach in 1993, wondering if I could do it right. I wondered how much of a impact I was going to have on our players. Could I remember everything? All of that. What was it like for you when you started?
Well, I was young. I was 26 years old, and my vision was I was going to be a big leaguer. And when I had my knee injury and thumb injury, kind of, spun me in the wrong direction. Really, I mean, I just didn't know what direction I was going. I knew kind of my career was ending. I didn't even really think about going into coaching. And then once the Astros approached me about it, I started thinking about it. But then I came back to Delaware to visit my folks, and then that's when I ran into the athletic director, and he had asked me would I have any interest. And I said, let me think about it. And I was like, do I really want to go back into minor leagues? Because, when you get to AAA, you're flying everywhere. You're kind of like a big leaguer in the sense of how you travel. But I was like, maybe I'm not quite sure if I want to go back into low minors, doing all those bus trips again. So that's why I jumped on the college scene. And I thought I'd only be temporary in the college scene. I thought I'd be back into professional baseball, probably coach one day.
Ah, okay. So
Yep.
Back then, Wilmington was NAIA or what, Division III?
Yeah, they were NAIA school, and it was different. You could get kids. Sometimes you could be 23 years old and still have eligibility. Guys who left college early, guys who might have flunked out. You had 10 semesters to fulfill 8 full semesters of play. So I had a few guys that were 24, 25 years old. And we developed some really good teams back in those days and went to 2 NAIA World Series back in 92 and 94. So, that was my first go-round. I started the fall of 1986. And like I said, thought I'd probably be in professional baseball somehow coaching. And here I am 36 years later.
36 years later in one sport. That's just phenomenal. I know I spoke with a very good friend of mine, and maybe you know him, Tracy Woodson, and the one question I forgot to ask him was, he made a comment to me when I was coaching with him. He goes, I've never had a job outside of baseball. And I was like, holy cow. That is so interesting. That's you too, isn't it?
That's me. I'm not. That's me.
Now, Jim, you've recently announced your retirement. I mean, it's gonna be tough for you, big guy.
Yeah. Well, I turned 62 a couple of weeks ago, and I've been mulling it over a little bit over the last few years. Just you've been through it with the COVID situation of 2020. Completely shortened stoppage or whatever we want to call it. And then last year, we had that short schedule we had at the University of Delaware where we only played 34 games. And I just thought the timing was right. I'm thinking, okay, this year should be my last year. I think we need to go in a different direction. I still think I can coach. I just think it's time just to turn it over to somebody else, give them a chance and let some younger blood get in here. And that's no knock on us older guys, but I just think it's, the moment is just right. They always say you should know you should be the first to know when it's time. And I put it together over the last 3 to 4 months and sat down with her athletic director and told her what I would like to do, and asked her, I'd like to stay with the university, working in some capacity over the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm going to, help out, maybe some special projects with the athletic director and continue working at the university.
Well,
that's where we are now.
Well, that's fantastic. And obviously, I commented to you earlier, it's going to be hard to look over in the Delaware dugout and not see you. For those of you guys that are listening tonight, that you don't realize this, the University of Delaware was the first conference series that me and my staff and team had way back in 2018. It was originally scheduled to be played here at home, but we got snow, so we decided we would flip it, and I would go to Delaware and play 3 games over there. And I should have known something was up when I got there, and I had a box of munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts and a traveler, and I was like, I wonder if they do this for everybody, or if they're just fattening us up for the kill. And I remember Coach Miller saying, I don't know, and then Coach Frank going, oh, that's the first time for this. He goes, so probably fattening for the kill. And I know you came over and were the gracious host and all of the above. And then it started. And I remember looking out on the field going, if that is what CAA baseball looks like, we are in trouble. And you guys set the tone. And, to this day, I just sat back and go, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to have size, and I wanted to have skill and arms, and, be well coached. And yeah, you guys, you set yourself apart. And, that's
I appreciate the comments, and, you surely have, done, that program right in the last few years, because then you put a little bit of whoop ass on us, last year, and you showed with your staff, what you can do when you put some hard work and hard recruiting and getting the kids to buy in, and you could tell a big difference in Towson baseball. And it was fun to watch, even at the expense that we may have lost those series. And you got a unique way of presenting a style of baseball, and the kids bought in, and I'm happy for you guys, and I'm happy for the conference, and it makes the conference better. So, and Delaware and Towson's had long time rivalries going all the way back, from the ECC, and, even back into the America East conferences. So it's been a long-standing relationship. So we've kind of mirrored each other a little bit over the years, I've always said.
Interesting you should say that. I know our outgoing AD, he used to pop in my office and said, all he would say was, have you played Delaware yet? And I said, no, not yet. And he goes, well, you beat anybody, but you got to beat them. If you want your job, you got to beat them. And I would laugh, and he'd laugh, and he'd leave, and then he'd come back, and he'd look around the corner, and he goes, I'm serious. I would say.
Well, it's being an hour away, and being easy access, for families to come watch, each of the teams, I think, built up a little rivalry. Some kids from our local area have gone down to Towson and played,
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a few kids down in that area come up here to Delaware.
Absolutely.
So I think it's always been, a real respected, mutual series matchups where, both teams usually over the years, Matt, swung the bat well.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell you stories of some big score games over the years. I think Mike Gottlieb said to me about, I forget what it was, the score. I think it was like 29-26. And I think we had like 30 hits in the game, and he said something. When was the last time you ever lost a game getting 30 hits? And he said, I can't recall one.
Yeah, and that leads me to my next question. You guys have always been able to hit the baseball. If you're looking back on your coaching career at Delaware, what was your best team? Can you put your finger on it?
Well, the 2001 team that I've coached was the 2001 team. We won. We went out to the regionals out of Ohio State. We knocked Ohio State out the first game. We lost close game to Mississippi State, like 12-11. And then we lost to Mississippi State 4-3. That was one of my best teams that I had. But the 17 team that just won it, a few years back, was kind of a special club as well. It was one of those clubs that by the halfway point really turned the corner and kind of came into an identity of their own. And that club probably ranks up there with one of the best clubs I've ever had.
I wrote that down on my personal notes. Was the 217 the juggernaut team? And I'm glad to hear you at least echo my sentiments. From afar, I just thought that was a heck of a squad.
Yeah, everybody in that lineup hit over 300. And, we kind of put it all together. And, Delaware's Achilles heel for years. And just like probably Townsend over the years has been that pitching end of it. And we put all the components together that year. We had good starting pitcher. We had three really good guys coming out of the bullpen, played well defensively. And like most years, we're pretty good offensively. And that was the topic. That was the ingredient to having a good year. The problem is we've just had our struggles over the years being consistent enough with the pitching. That's all. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. And now in 2017, Jim, you were part of the Olympic team trials, right?
No, that was back in the 90s.
That was in the 90s. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That was back for 4 years. I was part of the trials down there and down your neck of the woods, down there where you went to school, down there in Hampstead.
Wow.
Homestead.
Yeah.
When they did the trials for 4 years, from 92 to 96, to get ready for the 96 Olympics. And they had, players like Mark Kotze and A.J. Hinch, that era of guys. Here's A.J. Hinch, who's a big league manager, and Mark Kotze just got the job at Oakland A's. So, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was Ray Tanner when he was coaching at North Carolina State, and Ron Polk and Skip Bergman and all those guys. That's who else was involved with that. So I was a little younger and got my first opportunity to kind of rub shoulders with some of the big guys.
And those are certainly big guys for sure. So let me walk you down memory lane real quick. You've been inducted into 2 Hall of Fames, UD Hall of Fame and the Cape Cod Hall of Fame. What was it like being inducted into the Cape Cod Hall of Fame?
Well, I had the good fortune to play 2 summers up there. I played in Chatham and had 2 real good summers, and best 2 summers of my life. Second summer I lived up there. I actually lived with 3 girls, and that's a long story, but you usually live with host families. And I thought I might sign. I had gotten drafted by the Cubs, and I thought I might sign, and then the last minute I didn't sign. I went back up to the Cape. This was, for my senior year. I went back up there to play that summer, and I got up there late, and a girl I'd met the summer before had said, "Where you living?" I said, "I don't have a family," and she said, "Why don't you live with us?" So we, worked it out where I lived with them. Their folks came down, obviously, and vouched for me and everything. So, but it was great. It was a great summer. It's two summers all together, and then it was a handful of years back here in, I don't know, 2000. I don't even know my own bio. 2000, maybe 14, was it? Somewhere like that. I was inducted
into the UD Hall of Fame.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Cape Cod, 2012, 14. I got the phone call and by a representative from Chatham, and told me that I had been picked to be nominated for the Hall of Fame. And then I got another call later, about a week later, and said I was picked. And I mean, some big time names in that Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
You know, so it was an honor.
But
Great honor.
all of our listeners are going to want to know, did those three girls come down and for the Hall of Fame induction?
Well, what was hilarious was we played the Cape Cod All-Star game. Back in those days, you used to play the Cape Cod League All-Stars would play the ACBL All-Stars.
Okay.
And we had the All-Star game at Fenway Park. And I'm out in the right field stretching and running around, and all of a sudden I see this big banner on the railing hanging down. It was unraveled, and the girls that I was living with had this big banner and said, as they unraveled it, said, "We love you, Shermy."
Oh, there you go.
So I had my own little fan club there.
That a baby. Well,
that was a thrill playing in Fenway Park too.
Oh, you've crossed the thresholds of many great venues. Yeah. I mean, Cape Cod being one of them. Obviously, I'm sure your travels with the UD coach, as a UD coach, has taken you all over the place, and now up to AAA with Houston. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be another conversation that hopefully we get to have.
Yeah. I mean, baseball takes you all over the place on your travels, and some unbelievable, college ballparks and regionals, and it's been kind of a great ride, and that's the one part I miss. When you kind of go on some of these early trips that we take, in the start of the season, where you go into some of these ballparks, like you said, you're going into Miami. I don't know the last time you were down there, but they've probably done a lot of different things with their ballpark.
Absolutely.
And they're the things I kind of enjoy when we go in to play a club that I just haven't seen their facilities.
Yeah. It's amazing where college baseball is at today. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. I'm going to let you go. You're on your way out right now. So what's the biggest challenge that college baseball is facing?
The biggest challenge, I just think it's the generation of just handling these young kids. I think they got so much on their plate. Not just from the academic end, but there's a lot of demands on them physically, a lot of demands on them mentally. I think we're running into a culture of young men that have some bumps in the road. You can remember 20, 30 years ago, you weren't hearing a lot of mental health issues. You didn't have mental health issue meetings. And I think that's one of the things that are going on. So, it's kudos to those that are looking into those things and helping young men out and young ladies. So that's one of the biggest things I see right now. From a recruiting standpoint, as well as I know, is just the dynamics of some of the teaching that's out there. And not that I say it's wrong. It's just, we're just at a different time of teaching baseball, and we see a lot of strikeouts. We don't see some of what we call baseball, the traditional baseball from 30, 40 years ago. And I understand the fans out there go, come on, get with it, times change. But there's certain things I see kids not able to do coming out of high school, which they were able to do 20, 30 years ago. So some of that is probably, a little different. And the biggest change I see in the physical part of baseball right now.
Sure. I can remember being a draftee out of college baseball and having the Oriole brass tell me, you're probably going to hit 240 to 260. And I was like, well, if I'm going to hit 240 to 260, I better hit 20 plus home runs. And they're like, yeah, you're right. You better. And I was like, I'll never hit 240 to 260, and I hit 300 one year. And then every year after that, it was 240 to 260. So they knew exactly what they were talking about. And they said, you're going to drop 60 points from college baseball. You're dealing with wood bats versus aluminum, and it's just tougher pitching. My fear is that we lower the standard. And instead of going out looking for 300 hitters or high school hitters that can hit 350 or 400, maybe those days are gone, right? Now the good hitters hit 280, and then what's the drop off if they come to college? Is it 30 points, 50 points? Just like the pros told us, going from college to pro, you're going to hit less. Well, going from high school to college, you're probably going to hit a little bit less. So the game.
Yeah, and like I said, the pitching overall, the velocity has gotten better on all levels, big leagues, minor league baseball to college baseball. And I think that, that compared with, hitting approaches has changed over the years. Everybody's looking to put the ball over the fence. And, you talk to a guy that used to like that and drive it over the fence and production and all that. But I also have a keen eye and a feeling for those who, are just flat out good hitters and can hit well over 300 in college baseball and put the ball in play and advance a runner. So, part of that game has changed. That's all. And actually, you guys do as good a job as anybody out there right now within our conference.
Sure.
That handle the bat and can move runners over and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, those components are kind of the things I see.
Sure. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your evening. I know it's getting late. Again, talking to UD Hall of Famer, Cape Cod Hall of Famer, recent announcement of his retirement. We wish him nothing but success this year, except when he plays Towson. Go get him. You and the Blue Hens have a great success. We'll start to your season. We'll see you in about a month and a half on the field. Does that sound fair, big guy?
Yeah, Matty, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. And, just enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll see you shortly, okay?
You got it, Jimmy. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We'll be back with you in just a second. But right now, a little word from our sponsor. This segment's brought to you by Towson alum Chris Russ, your real estate specialist. You can find Chris at chrisruss.com or call him at 410-908-7723. Chris specializes and takes great pride in helping others relocate to new towns, as he once did over a dozen times while pursuing his dream to play Major League Baseball with the Texas Rangers. With many buyers flooding the area due to the great schools, strong job economy, and a robust defense industry, Chris has teamed up with lenders that specialize in VA loans and a home inspector that served our military proudly. Whether you are looking to commute to Howard County, Fort Meade, Baltimore, Bethesda, or Washington, D.C., Chris is familiar with the communities and the commuter locations that will serve you best. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, 410-908-7723. Another proud TU alum. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, your real estate specialist. As you all know, I always have a special guest segment, and today is nothing different, except this one is a real special guest. Again, another personal friend of mine, and I've got to tell this story. Well, I hope you'll give me a chance to. I'm an assistant coach at the University of Richmond, and I'm down playing Davidson College for the first time ever, and I know they've got this superstar associate head coach coming up and through the ranks, and I'm in the batting cage, and I see him out there doing his thing, and I just got this feeling this kid's going to be something special. I have an opportunity to see this older gentleman hanging around the cage, and we strike up a conversation, and wouldn't you know it, it's that coach's dad. And I'm sitting there going, you ought to be really proud of that young man. He's going to be a fine coach one day. And he goes, you think? And I said, yeah, I do think. I said, I like what he does. I like what he's about. I like his fabric. I like the character of the young man. He's going to be an outstanding coach. And he said, well, I appreciate that. I said, you can let him know that as well. I didn't want to blow him up too much, making his head get too big. But it looks like I might have been right on target there, because within 2 years, That young associate head coach became the head coach at Davidson College, led him into a regional the first year that he was there, and was recently named one of the top 10 up-and-coming head coaches under the age of 40 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet my next guest, Rucker Taylor, the head coach at Davidson College. Welcome, Rucker. How are you?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Doing fine. I told that story, and you can either lie or deny or accept. It was pretty spot on, wasn't it?
I think I've learned with you it's better just to accept. I think if I deny it, I don't think I'm going to win that battle. So I think in my each passing year, hopefully gives me a little more wisdom and confidence and knowledge. I think you've taught me that in our relationship, I agree. You're usually right, and I've learned that. We'll just roll with it that way.
You're a smart man, my man. You're a smart man.
I'm learning.
I don't think anybody outworks you and your staff. You're a true tribute to what young coaches should be like. You hail from Alabama. You were a baseball player at Bayside Academy, and you got recruited and played your baseball at Vanderbilt. What was that like?
I think probably for a coach, there might not be a better learning experience, as a player for the college level. I was not good enough to play professionally. The vast majority of my teammates were. And I think if you look at that time period, which is pretty cool. Last year, 2 years ago, a guy from The Athletic did a piece on Coach Corbin's, first group of players, not necessarily a group that he recruited, but the kind of group he inherited. And, it's a group of a lot of guys that are in baseball, both collegiately and professionally. And there's about 10, 12 of us on a group text chain. There's a lot of guys are with their buddies, especially college buddies, and a lot of baseball guys on it. And, we're really proud of each other. And I think within that group, one guy's now the GM of the Chicago Cubs. A couple guys are very high up in front offices and a couple of different professional organizations. One guy's on the player agent side. And then, as you and I have talked about before, one of my best friends, Ryan Klosterman, is the head coach at Bryant University, who just had a great weekend, opening weekend of college baseball season. They're now ranked in the top 25 by a couple of publications. And as luck has it, Kloster and I were talking today not about their weekend, but we were talking about what him and I are doing for dinner Saturday at my house, because we're playing them, and his parents are coming in town to reconnect with my parents, and his wife's coming down to meet my wife for the first time. So, really, kind of getting back to the question, there's a really good group of guys. I think what we learned from at the time was Coach Corbin, who's still there as the head coach, pitching coach Derek Johnson, who's now the Cincinnati Reds big league pitching coach. One of the assistants at the time was Eric Bakich, who's now the head coach at Michigan. National championship game a couple of years ago. One of the assistants was Cliff Godwin, who's now the head coach at East Carolina University. Mike Leitry, who's on the field for the Philadelphia Phillies at the big league level. Mike Holder, who's the head coach at USC Aiken. Even kind of the random, there's a guy named John Williamson, who was our director of baseball operations, who's now a two-time national championship coach with Vanderbilt women's bowling. It's kind of you think about the fortune that I had, not knowing I wanted to get into coaching, to be in that environment. It was kind of almost, I won't say a given, but I was incredibly blessed to be around great people. A lot of my best friends this day are from that time period. But really just a great coaching environment. I was very, very fortunate to be in that setting, and probably not shocking that I'm able to be doing what I'm doing now is a huge testament to that time period of my life.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's quite a roster of coaches that you were able to rip off right there, and it speaks volumes, obviously, to what's going on at Vanderbilt. And you're right, it's led by one of the premier coaches in college baseball, Tim Corbin, and their program is, second to none. And would you say that when you were there, Ruck, that you guys started the tradition? It had started a little bit before you, but your last year was 2006, right?
Correct, yep.
So would you I mean, do you think that you guys were kind of the catalyst that took that program and really started to shift it? Because you made some regional appearances, did you not?
Yeah, so I think that's probably for Coach Corbin to make that that final call. I think the writer of that story for the Athletic maybe portrayed it that way. Not my place to make that decision. I think that speaking for our group collectively, we're very proud of the success that the program currently has. A lot of us joke that we would not have been recruited based on the type of talented players they're getting now. Some of us certainly did not fit that profile. I think Coach Corbin came into a situation that, with his energy, with his vision, was able to make into what it is today. I do think that the timing with the new stadium was kind of a two-phase deal. Maybe the first phase was done, and the second phase got completed our freshman year, which was his first year of the season, 2003. I think he made an incredibly wise decision to keep Derek Johnson and Mike Holder, who's the volunteer at the time, volunteer assistant, to keep those guys on staff. Obviously hired the right guy in Eric Baggage to come in and lead the recruiting efforts. And here's a guy that was we're close with, Jeremy Sowers, who works in the front office of the Rays right now. Jeremy had been recruited by the previous staff, turned down into the first round money as a high school senior out of Kentucky. Came in, was a Friday night guy from day one. I think brought some legitimacy to the program. Helped us elevate things. I think our second year we went to a super regional in Texas, which maybe made the recruiting process a little bit easier. And then you bring in a David Price the following year, a Pedro Alvarez, a Ryan Flaherty. 2 years after that, I think with Baseball America's #1 recruiting class in the country. And it's really just been rolling ever since. So I think there's definite pride for what we accomplished in our time there. Did we see what it would turn into? I don't think at 19, 20, 21, you're smart enough to see that. Was there any doubt in our mind that Coach Corbin and that staff would be successful? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think they've evolved as college baseball specifically has evolved. You and I can see some of the beautiful cathedrals that are being built, the emphasis that a lot of programs are putting on it now with resources, not just scholarship, but facilities, with coaching staffs, with the investment in the fan experience. It's a different animal than it was at that time. I think they've evolved. I think they've stayed on the cutting edge of it. Their use of social media is second to none. So, were we part of it? Yeah, absolutely. Were we the reason? No, I don't think so. Selfishly, do you think we had a small part in it? Yeah, absolutely. And we're proud of what was accomplished there during that time for us. Absolutely. We're incredibly proud of each other. I think we're very proud as a group of the success the program's having now. And, one of those guys that came in my sophomore year in Coach Corbin's first recruiting class was Mike Baxter, who's the current recruiting coordinator and works with the position players there. And I think is as good of an offensive coach as there is, and does a great job evaluating players. And I think he's a really well thought of coach in this industry. And, Mike's on that group chain that gets sent around. And, we're very proud for their success, whether it's a season ending in Omaha or beating maybe an opponent that we weren't super fond of in our time there.
So there actually are a couple opponents there that you guys don't mind beating up on?
At the time when we were there, no. I can't speak to what goes on now, but at our time we emptied the benches once or twice. Nothing got too serious, but there's some competition. This was back before Twitter and some other things, so there maybe weren't as many videos, but no punches thrown, just some guys that maybe lifted too many weights that wanted to express their frustrations with an opponent's slide or maybe an intentional hit by pitch, but nothing too dramatic.
I would have hated to have gotten hit by pitch from Big Dave. That might have hurt.
Yeah, he long story that I'll keep semi-brief, but first time I ever umpired behind home plate was a kind of an inter-squad type deal my senior year. David was a sophomore and not quite throwing as hard as he would later in his career, especially once he got to the big leagues. But, my first time behind home plate, and the catcher was Carter Hawkins, who is the aforementioned GM of the Chicago Cubs now. And I think Carter would tell you, like me, we were very scrappy, very invested in the team concept, but probably limited in our physical skill set. So I told Hawk, hey, you better keep this ball from hitting me because I don't know what I'm doing I don't want to wear one off the face or the chest here, so you better protect me. And he did his job that day. I went back to an alumni game my next year. Was a grad assistant at Stanford University. Drove up 3 hours after practice and made it in about the fifth or sixth inning for an alumni game. And I somehow got forced onto the field, which was not ideal. So I'm playing with a bunch of minor league guys on the alumni team, and I unfortunately, because a couple of guys got walked or reached on air or something, I had to get in at bat in the ninth with 2 outs. And I was facing Casey Weathers, who was a good buddy, and Casey would end up being, I think, the 7th, 8th, 9th overall pick in the draft that year. And Carter was catching, and I go, Carter, if he throws anything but a fastball away, and you don't tell me I survived this, I'm going to beat you with this bat. And he told me 3 straight pitches were fastballs away. I took 95. I fouled off 96. I took I think it was 94, 95 that, from my view, was in the other batter's box. But mercifully, the umpire went ahead and punched me out looking to end the exhibition game. So Carter and I remain friends to this day.
There you go.
Get him not getting me hurt in that scenario.
Well, you segued into a pretty good transition there from player to grad assistant down in Sanford. You left baseball as a player and immediately got into coaching, correct?
Correct. I was really fortunate. My high school coach at Bayside, Tony David, was at Stanford University and talked to me for a while about the possibility of getting into coaching. I went down there my junior summer and worked a couple of their camps. Got to meet the head coach, Casey Dunn, who just left this year to be the head coach at UAB. And Tony got promoted to be the head coach at Stanford. So had known Tony for a long time, got to know Casey in that process, and I was really fortunate to have a pretty easy segue into coaching. I was around good people. Birmingham was a great place to be at that time. Was about 4 hours from where I grew up. Had some high school friends that lived in the Birmingham area. Some comfort just being back in the home state there. And again, it was around a lot of good people and also some good baseball people. I think Casey was exceptional on the offensive side of baseball. Showed me how to have a family and also be a baseball coach. And Tony was the same way. And pitching coach at the time, Phil Binder, remains a friend to this day, and he's now on the basketball refereeing side of things. But he's got a beach house him and his wife do down in the general area where I grew up, and get to see him down there about once a year if we're traveling down that way. So very fortunate again to be around good people in a nice setting there as well. So
you coached there for 6 years, correct?
That's it, yeah.
Picked up an MBA in 2008. Congratulations. That's quite of an accomplishment. Were part of a staff that led Sanford to, would it be safe to say their first regional in 2012? Or had you been?
I think first regional in school history. It went to Tallahassee, and we were the 3 seed actually, and beat Mississippi State, who was the SEC champs that year. They had a first rounder named Chris Stratton, who ended up being a big leaguer, SEC Pitcher of the Year, and they had the shortstop was Adam Frazier, who's been a great major leaguer. I think he just got traded from maybe the Pirates to the Padres either this past year or this off season. They had Hunter Renfroe was a first round outfielder, big leaguer. Jonathan Holden, I think, has been up with the Yankees. A very talented team. I think that was John Cohen is now the AD at Mississippi State. Was when he was the head coach, and very talented team. UAB from our town of Birmingham there was also in that region. It was a 4 seed, and then Florida State was the 1 seed, and won a good game Friday against Mississippi State. Got beat in a competitive game, if I remember correctly, against Florida State. Came back, beat Mississippi State again. I don't remember a ton about that game, honestly, and then got beat in the championship game Sunday, either Sunday or Monday. I can't remember, against Florida State. So a lot of fun. We beat Georgia Southern, who had a big leaguer named Chris Beck, who was a first round draft pick. Beat him in the championship game in Charleston, which was a rematch of the prior year SoCon title game. And that game was in Greenville, South Carolina, and they beat us in that. I'm sorry, we lost 1-0 in Charleston to Beck and Georgia Southern. Came back the next year and beat the same team, same pitcher, just in a different venue. So that was maybe exercising some demons on that one. But he was a heck of a college pitcher, and obviously had success on the professional side, and had some really good battles in the SoCon over those years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then you make a move, you make a change, you go from Sanford to Davidson, and start your coaching career with the team still in the SoCon at that point in time, correct?
That's correct. Yep. So familiarity there with the league, absolutely.
So that was good. Dick Cook was your head coach there. Obviously, no Dick. He's my age and pretty productive, and he picked the right guy to succeed him, meaning you. And you go from assistant coach to associate head coach to more or less a coach in waiting. And that's when I really got the opportunity to meet you up close and personal. Tell us about your development there of the Davidson College baseball program, because it's got your blueprint behind it now, and it had it about probably the second day that you stepped on campus. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was a unique situation. Coach Cook was in a really bad car accident the first fall I got here. He was on a in-home visit with a local guy from Charlotte, and a drunk driver somehow hit him from behind on an interstate, which seems tough to do. And long story short, he was, I think he was probably fortunate to survive. It was a really bad situation. And so he was, just was in a hospital for a little bit. There were some surgeries. Was again really fortunate to be alive. So that first fall was probably got thrown to the fire. It was a whole new staff, myself included. Coach Cook being the only returning member of that staff, and I think he was incredibly trusting in me and our staff at that time. Gave us a lot of freedom. There's 3 young coaches, and probably a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, and learning from our mistakes. So I was not the way you want to have the ability to have a lot of input on a program, but was a really bad situation, in life. But from the coaching side, for me, it really forced me into a role that maybe I was or wasn't ready for, but was able to learn a lot. So Coach was able to be back that spring in full capacity, and I think through that process, I think him and I really trusted each other and had great lines of communication. And he's still our baseball oversight to this day, and we talk daily, and he's been a great mentor for me throughout the process, both as the head coach and then now as an administrator. He's been incredibly helpful in my development, both on and off the field. So very, very appreciative of him, and I think just because of the type of person he is, very trusting. He has allowed me a lot of freedom in the coming years, in the past years, and have been able to do some things. And Ryan Munger is our recruiting coordinator and helps with the position players. He's been here now this is his 9th year, and he's been incredibly helpful as well. And he played at Duke University for Chris Pollard, who's a Davidson alum. Coach Pollard recommended Ryan to Coach Cook at the time when we were looking for a new assistant coach, and it's been a great fit. So I think Coach Cook's blueprints are certainly all over this program, and we've continued a lot of things that he's implemented, and understanding there's 2 sides to this student athlete thing here. You do truly have to go to class here. You do have to make your grades. There's no lip service to that. There's a lot of demands placed on the student, the scholar athlete, as we call it here at Davidson. There's a lot of demands there. And so I think he's been instrumental in my understanding of Davidson and how that bleeds together. Been very, very helpful. So we are certainly understand that the student has to come first here, the person first here. If the person isn't a fit at Davidson, the baseball side doesn't even matter. So it's a great place to be. It's a great place to work. It's, as you know, it's not work. It's a lifestyle. It's a daily part of what we do, and it's trying to get the right human beings in here. I think the baseball side will take care of itself at that point.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. And I know that we are rapidly approaching that 20-minute mark, so I want to ask you one quick one. So you come to Davidson, you make a transition from SoCon to A10, and in 2017, you lead the Wildcats to the conference championship and an appearance in a regional at North Carolina, where you have become the darlings of the NCAA college baseball playoffs at that point in time, because you're a team with 3 scholarships playing against fully funded athletic programs at the mega level. What was that like, and do I have it all correct?
I think at the time, if you asked Coach Cook, he'd say we were closer to 2.5.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think not to overemphasize that, but yeah, it was a really cool deal. We thought we were a talented team. We had some injuries early. We got some guys back healthy at the end of the year. We had an older group. We had some older pitchers that really competed. I believe it was our first in baseball, first championship at program history, which is obviously a cool feat of over 100 plus years of playing the game here. So that was a magical Cinderella story. But any of those cliches you want to throw out, I think certainly probably were applicable there. And we were, I think, going to Chapel Hill for that regional. Part of us, I think, wanted maybe to go out and experience the different environments. We played there typically every year. Regular season, we had played them late in the regular season, and if people kept up with it, they would have known that we were actually winning. I think it was 6-3 in the 9th inning, 2 outs, 2 strikes at Carolina on a Tuesday midweek. With I think maybe there's runner on first, 2 outs, 2 strikes. Bottom 9, and we somehow lost that game. So I think our guys went in there with a lot of confidence. We were faced the ACC Pitcher of the Year. Was up to 100, and a lot of good things about him. And I think because of Coach Cook, just our coaching staff's plan going in, we felt like we had a good approach to it. We wanted the guys to enjoy the moment and play loose. And that could be coach talk, that can be cliche, but we actually went out and executed. And we got fortunate, some things bounced our way certainly. We hammered the ball early and had some success with that, and the momentum just kind of kept rolling. And we were, probably on cloud 9 after Friday night. Enjoyed it. And got an incredible pitching effort from Evan Roberts, who's now on the player development side of the Los Angeles Angels, and rolled into Sunday and had we actually talked to some family friends about this last night. We had never at the game, had bad weather Sunday. Our game got pushed back, and okay, we played tomorrow, we played tonight, and ended up playing a later start, and beautiful 1-run game, and we made a couple of plays at the end that sealed it for us. So it was a magical experience, something I'll probably never forget in my coaching career. Go to A&M and lose the first game, I think, in 15 innings, and there's still a few plays that happened there that I think about almost daily. And then we go out Saturday. I think we're up 7-2 in the 7th, 7-3 in the 7th, and had a chance for a double play ball and didn't make it. And then an infield pop up that I think the crowd noise certainly factored into there. We had a collision, and the go ahead run scores off of that. So think about both those things a lot. And there's probably some sports psychologists that would tell me, hey, it's time to move on. But I do think about those in mostly positive ways, and we might do a little bit more fly ball communication than some teams because of it. But
there you go.
That's okay. So, great year and a lot of really good people. And some of those alumni, especially that live in this area, they try to come to a lot of games. And, that means a lot as when those former players come back, as you all know. And, knowing you had a positive impact on them in some way, I think is probably as good of a feeling as that regional or that super regional parents or a lot of the wins that, if you're fortunate enough to get some of those. I think those guys coming back is as good as anything.
Well, listen, dude, we wish you and the Wildcats an outstanding 2022. I know you guys are off to a 2-1 start this year. Continued success. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to spend a little bit of it with us. I'm sure our listeners will look forward to hearing that. We all like to pull for the Cinderella story. We all like to be a part of that. Rucker, continued success for you and your staff and your players, and most importantly, your university. Do us the favor and promise that you'll come back on when you win your 35th game this year, and we'll see what the regional looks like for you in 2022. All right?
I'll make that deal. Sounds good.
All right, my man. Take care. Congratulations. Thanks for coming on board. We'll see you.
Enjoy. Thanks for the invite.
All righty, babe. Bye-bye.
Okay.
We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. Hey, well, it looks like we've got a new sponsor, and the Jungle Cat would like to thank the fine team at Capital Seaboard, the top distributor of fresh produce and seafood in the Mid-Atlantic region. Capital services the top chefs in restaurants, hotels, caterers, and kitchens from Philly to Richmond. They're a chef-driven, highest in quality company, proudly serving the region with over 90 vehicles delivering 6 days a week. And thanks very much for that sample of lumped crab meat. Can't wait to dive into that after tonight's show. What do you think, Will? You ready to try some?
I'm ready.
Great. Well, thanks again to the people at Capital Seaboard for their fine and continued sponsorship. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is a gentleman by the name of Charlie Fisher. And for the first time this year and on this podcast, we are going to do a little crossing over. We're going to leave the field of baseball and we're going to get into the field of football. And I want to introduce Charlie Fisher to you as a former football coach at all levels, and one that I had the opportunity and the honor to meet and get to know while he was coaching at the University of Richmond. He's recently retired and gotten into kind of inspirational email-bound messages, which have been great for me to receive on a daily basis. And, it's just nice to reconnect with good people. And Charlie is that. Let me welcome Charlie Fisher to our show. Good afternoon, Charlie. How are you?
All right, Matt. I'm doing good, man. It's always good to connect with my guy, Coach Matt Tyner. And, it's good you're coming over on the dark side now to the football side. But, most people know me. I played college baseball, and me and you have had many conversations. You know my love for the game of baseball. So, this is a win-win for me. We get to talk some football. If we talk a little baseball at the end and you sneak that in, I'm good with that too, because I'm just glad they got everything resolved and baseball will be back full blown at the major league level. Of course, you guys have already started at the college level.
Well, and let me tee this up for everybody. So I'm sitting in my office at the University of Richmond, and the football offices and the baseball offices are in the same corner of the Robins Center. And normally sports fans, if a baseball coach wants to talk to a football coach, he's got to track him down and try to find him. But not in this one. Charlie was always first in our office to find out what was going on with the baseball. So he's not kidding you when he said he was a big baseball fan. And it was kind of neat to bridge that gap. And it opened up quite a few doors. I mean, I got to sit in on their FCA Coaches Huddle program and, get to know Charlie from that perspective of life, and that was really cool. That was I think that's how we forged this friendship that will, from my part, last throughout the remaining years we've got there, big fella.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you, one of the things that coaching at some of the smaller schools, or certainly the mid majors, however you want to call them, is the fact that the coaches are in the same building. But when I coached at Penn State and Arizona State, North Carolina State, I have a separate football facility. Heck, part of the magic of coaching is being able to spend time with other coaches in other sports and seeing how they do things, get their thoughts on because we're all in education, we're all teachers, and we all want the best for our players, certainly the good coaches. And so it's always great to cross over and connect with coaches. I've learned a lot from coaches in other sports along the way. And when you have like the wisdom of you guys right next door and be able to share from that standpoint, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? And baseball, that might be the crux of the conversation to start, but it's a bigger picture than that, right, Matt?
Absolutely, Charlie. And I take full advantage of it wherever I go. I remember all the way back to my Butler University days in Indianapolis, Indiana, and sneaking into Hinkle Fieldhouse because we were all in that building. But to watch a basketball practice run by Brad Stevens was a work of art, and then
absolutely
jump down in the Butler Bowl and watch Ken LaRose run his football program, and then it always just seemed to carry over. I got the chance to watch you guys practice at the University of Richmond. It makes a lot of sense just to see how other things really, really take place, and why wouldn't you do that if you got the opportunity?
I tell you, in 2000 and 2001, I was the offensive coordinator at Temple. And at that time, John Chaney was the head basketball coach at Temple. And certainly Temple was on a roll in those days in basketball. And, of course, they practiced about 5 o'clock in the morning every day. But we had an early morning workout, crossed over to watch Coach Chaney run a basketball practice at Temple. And you better have thick skin on that one now, Matt. You don't want to walk into that practice as a player without some thick skin, because man, and what a great coach and a good man, Coach Chaney. I mean, he was old school as they come. Sometimes I wonder if our new generation of player could handle what he was dishing out. It was as you know, Coach Chaney, he let them know where they stood in a hurry.
It's interesting you bring up a guy like Coach Chaney, because I was lucky enough to be a part of Bellarmine University, and although I missed the transition from Division II to Division I, I did get an opportunity to meet Scotty Davenport, who was the head men's basketball coach, who had spent what seems like a lifetime at the University of Louisville in an assistant's role, and he took the Bellarmine's men's basketball program to new heights at the Division II level. And as you can see, they just won the A-Sun at the Division. Yeah, and here's a guy that does it that way. And whether it's right or wrong, he is a very, I'm going to call it informative coach and demonstrative, and it works. And I still think, regardless of what you're looking for, we all need, and we all search, and we all strive for direction. And there are obviously different ways to teach it, and some work for some and some work for another. And, to blend your style with, I heard this in church yesterday. We all begin original, and it's our job to not end up a copy.
Right. That's well said. And sure.
Yeah. And I just feel like if you can take a little bit of this from this coach and maybe a little bit from this coach, you got a chance. You can blend it and make it your own. And I don't know about you. You played a sport. You played 2 sports, at a very high level. Did you ever author anything, or did you borrow it from somebody else? I know I've played extremely at an extremely high level, and I'm still borrowing stuff.
Oh, absolutely. You're always. I mean, the football world is known as the copycat world, because people can see what you run on tape and the plays, and you might tweak it. And I think every coach has a certain amount of guys that they share with and they mentor with. And certainly there's been some guys like that for me over the years. At the different positions I've coached, I've always been a quarterback receiver guy, and then from an offensive standpoint. But you're always you're always digging, you're always probing to see how people do things. What can you do better? And then you put your own signature on. It's like I was a quarterback coach, so I would always tell the quarterbacks, every throw you make has your signature on it, and you want to make sure it's a good one for sure. So you want to do that as you probe. And I just think coaching, so many. I tell guys all the time, listen, the old school way is you worked your way up, and now sometimes guys say, well, I want to start right at the top. But I was blessed. I spent 13 years in Division II football, and it was the absolute best thing that could have ever happened to me. I mean, I learned so much as a young coach at a small college level, and then when I was able to get to the big school, I appreciated every day I spent at a bigger school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always important. And I always say to the coaches, the big time is where you're at. It doesn't matter where you're coaching; that's the big time. And those kids need to be coached. They need to have your best every day.
Funny you should say that, just to kind of prove our point of what we're talking about right now. We had Mike Glavin, head baseball coach at Northeastern, on earlier this year, and he said, one of the things I tell our guys is specifically just be where your feet are.
Yeah.
And I think you're saying pretty much the same thing.
Same thing.
And
Same thing. And let me go back to you. You talked about Bellarmine, right? And I want to make sure, because I watched that game the other night. I want to make sure I had that pronunciation right. But in my opinion, what an injustice by the NCAA not to have those guys in the tournament. To me, why is there a grace period on that? Those guys moved up, man. Give them the credit for being good enough to get to the tournament, right?
You know, I would say we could spend at least another 20 minutes on just the NCAA, but I have a job and I want to keep it. So
yeah, you do. I see. I can speak out a little bit more, and trust me, there's a lot of days, having spent 2 years at Penn State, when the NCAA came down very, very, in my opinion, wrong and unjustly on the wrong people at Penn State. And so I've always had my opinion, but I have learned with maturity not to say anything too loud. And hey, they got a job to do. We got a job to do as coaches, so we got to find a common ground, right?
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think there are rules and there are regulations and there's protocols and everything else. But at some point in time, every one of those rules should maybe have an exception opportunity. And for those kids to accomplish what they accomplished at the school that they accomplished it at, in a just hotbed of basketball in Louisville and the state of Kentucky, and then to be denied the opportunity to participate in the field of 64 after you accomplish what you set out to accomplish is criminal. I'll say it. It's criminal, because I still have some Bellarmine in me, and it just
absolutely. You always have a little bit of every school you coach at. You take a little bit of that with you because you remember your days coaching there, and I think inherently we all pull, obviously yesterday Richmond won.
Right.
And I sit there and watch I'll always pull for the Spiders. I mean, they were good to me, and I think whether it's good or bad, whatever, we all have a little bit in us that pulls for some of the schools that were good to us along the way in our journey in coaching. And I just think, the common sense approach, right? Those, aren't we for the kids, and those kids and what they accomplish certainly deserve the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament, which is a lifelong dream, right? So isn't that what we're all about when the accomplishment is made like that, to reward it?
Absolutely. And I guess it goes without saying what you just said, that common sense approach. There's got to be somebody in the room that goes, hey, I know everything's written in over here, but I think this is the time where we have a little special exception because nobody saw this coming. And it is, I don't think it has ever happened before. If it has, I'm unaware of it. And, it's just one of those things where you're right. And look at us now. Here's a baseball, football guy. Now we're off on basketball. I mean, this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we're talking about this. Be no different if you're in that situation in Towson, and or I've been in those situations with the playoffs at the FCS and Division II level, and felt like we got either a bad draw or no draw, and that's a bad feeling, because we all know how much work it takes as a coach to get to that point where you can win a championship or get in the NCAA, and those are once in a lifetime opportunities. And for when I heard them say it's a 4-year waiting period, I said, Lord, who waits 4 years to put somebody in a conference and then into the opportunity? I mean, come on, that's a whole recruiting cycle for a kid.
Absolutely. And I just, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And obviously it's a done deal now. So,
that's right.
It's so sad, too bad. And we move on. But let's go back to Charlie Fisher. All right. Mm-hmm. So Charlie goes to Springfield, Massachusetts, and you graduate. You end up at Eastern Kentucky doing some grad work.
Yep.
When did you know that you wanted to get into coaching? I mean, what tripped that trigger?
That's a good question. I think it's something I always do. Actually, I almost ended up being a baseball coach. I was set to go to East Stroudsburg State University as a graduate assistant, and bailed out at the last second. I just, I don't know, as a coach, I always, as much as, I love baseball and played it, and and probably if you ask me from a player standpoint, I love playing baseball probably more than I did football, but I love coaching football. I know there was just something that always grabbed me about the offensive side. I played quarterback. And, I think, when I was a freshman in 1977, people don't do this anymore, but I remember my first scrimmage, and the head coach looked at me and he said, "Hey, you got it, call it." And I was an 18-year-old kid, a freshman, and he let me call my plays on my first drive. How about that?
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with that side of it. Always, just the connection to the sports and the kids and what I wanted to do. So I kind of always knew, Springfield's a big coaching school, a lot of PE majors, a lot of people in that side, the health, physical education industry. So it was kind of a natural fit for me going to school there. And that's kind of what I always envisioned myself doing. Matt, I used to watch the SEC as a kid, and I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be awesome to either play in that league or coach in that league? And God blessed me with the opportunity, 9 years at Vanderbilt to be in the SEC, and I wouldn't trade any 1 minute about coaching football in that league, because that is like the king right there.
Absolutely, and that's well said. I mean, a lot of us kind of stumble into coaching. And it looked like your career took you right from playing right into coaching. And we've had a couple interviewees that we've asked that same question, and you answered it very, very well. And I guess for those that are at that fork in the road of playing or coaching, man, the sports in general need good coaching. So I hope that people consider going into coaching. And as a good friend of mine, my former roommate at the University of Miami always said, was when you get ready to get into coaching, get ready to take that sworn oath of poverty, because there's not a lot of money until you get to a specific level. And then, and only then can you, expect to feed a family, raise a family, get some roots, all of the above. And, you spent roughly 40 years in the game at the coaching level. And that just speaks volumes to your commitment, not only to the sport, but also to the kids.
Well, in the big picture, Matt, it's always about the players. People, since I've retired, I retired in 2019. I was just shy of 40 years, 15 jobs. It was fun. If you coach, you're going to get hired, you're going to get fired. I was moved on 4 times at big schools. That happens. That's all part of it. But, as a coach, you have to learn to deal with the ups and downs and persevere. And, I always just saw a bigger picture, that it's always about the players and being an influence on them. And so that was always important to me. But I always knew I wanted to coach. It didn't matter which level. Obviously, I think, you work hard, you strive. Maybe one day you get a chance to coach at a Penn State or an Arizona State, and I was blessed that way. But that was never my intent. If that happened, great. But I was always happy if I could be calling plays and coaching the pass game and all that stuff. I was happy as a lark. And Richmond was a great example of that for me, Matt. That was a bridge for me. I left Penn State and came to Richmond, and there were 2 different levels, and it was a big change at that point, in my life. But it was a good change. In Richmond, I wouldn't change anything about the University of Richmond. I had so much fun there. Coach Danny Rocco, and it really led me to be a head coach again at Western Illinois. So the path for me, I'm a man of faith and always believe that the good Lord has that path. We just need to trust it. He's got the path set. You just walk it and trust it.
Well, I know that you're a busy man and you've got another meeting that you're heading to today, but I do want you to take a minute and tell our listeners a little bit about what you're doing right now. Give us a little shameless plug regarding fish food.
Yeah, there's a couple things going on. Fish food is one of the things I got going on. I do some private instruction. I still stay in the game that way. Been doing some commentating, been on ESPN3 a little bit, doing some college football, some high school football here locally. And then I started an email ministry. I just thought, hey, this is something I can do. We talked about coaches. I can be a positive influence. I started this fish food ministry just where I'm sending out different things always with a positive slant. I just, I cringe. I think between social media and TV and all the things that are going on in this world, everything seems to be negative. And, I just felt like, we need a positive slant on things. We need to be able to look at things from a positive standpoint. So I started Fish Food and tried to put a catchy little name to it. Certainly, Matt, if any of your viewers out there want to get involved, all we need is an email, and we'll put you on the list. We want people involved. I've got up to about 150 people, but I want to grow that a whole lot more than that. I'd like to get that to 500. And so one day at a time on that. But it's been good, and it's given me an opportunity to give back to coaches and business people. You don't have to be a coach to be involved in it. We just want to make a difference. And one Matt Tyner's on my list. You got on there, and so hopefully there's some good inspiration, some good thought, just things to make you smile, make you think a little bit.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm going to say, for those of you that want to join in on us or in with us in regard to Charlie's ministry, his email is crfisher.football@gmail.com. Again, crfisher.football@gmail.com. And you too can subscribe to Fish Food. And
That's right.
It's
love to have you.
nice little inspirational message, and kind of tees it up very nicely for the day and get you off and get you running. Who knows, you may even borrow something from it like we talked about earlier today. Hey,
Absolutely.
my man, thank you very much for joining us today. I can't say enough about our friendship. Let's stay together. Look forward to doing this again real soon. When you hit that 500 mark, hopefully you'll come back on and share that success story with us. All right?
Anytime, yeah. And you reach out to me. I love getting on here, talking life, talking baseball, football, whatever we want to talk about, we'll get after it.
Love you, man. You be good, okay?
All right. Hey, Matt, thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care, Charlie. We'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I don't know about you, Will, but I think that was probably one of our better shows.
I think it was too.
I just love the way that the serve and volley went with Melnik and me today, and just listening to those fine coaches talk a little bit about their careers was just outstanding information. Be sure to join us next week when we dive back into the alumni group. Hopefully we've got Mark Eber with us next week. We'll have another edition of Michael Melnik as we talk about accountability. And we'll also go deep with Bill Decker, the head baseball coach at Harvard. He really opens up. I think you're going to love that show. And as soon as we can, we will talk a little bit about maybe a special segment that we're going to have in the next couple of weeks where we have some special guests. We've got to get it approved, but we're thinking about trying to get some players on the show and make sure that we can do that. But until then, I want to thank our sponsors. Again, Chris Russ, the real estate specialist, Advanced Collision in Beltsville, Maryland, and of course, Capital Seaboard. You guys, we couldn't do it without you. Thanks very much for providing your financial support for our show. We look forward to expanding our reach as we continue to build our listening base. Don't even know where we're at right now. We'll talk about that maybe next week. But if you've got a friend that you think would like to hear this, forward the links to those guys and girls. We're all about baseball. We're all about life. We just like bringing the conversational tone to the airwaves. Couldn't do it without my man, not the thrill Will Pritchard, but he's one of a kind, ladies and gentlemen. Say goodbye, Will.
Well, this has been fun, and until next week, if you would like to get notified when new episodes come out, please subscribe or follow on your favorite streaming platform. If you subscribe on YouTube, you can set it to get a push notification if that's your method of choice. I know Spotify and Apple Podcasts each do their own thing, so does Google Podcasts. So you can just stay up to date and get that notification as soon as that episode gets uploaded.
I'm glad he's handling that, ladies and gentlemen, because I really have no idea what he just said. But until next week, if you want to be the change, then be the change that you want to see in the world. It's your part to do your part. Ladies and gentlemen, you know we love you. Take care. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with episode number 7. Wow, it's a great number. Y'all be good. Take care.
Do you have any questions you wish for us to discuss? Anything you want to talk about? Feel free to email us at mtyner@towson.edu. That's mtyner@towson.edu or wprich1@students.towson.edu. That's wprich1@students.towson.edu.